Stream yours.
Oh, let me see if I can do that.
Welcome to Where's Your Next on this Tuesday, the 18th. It is 11:15 Mountain Time, 10:15 Pacific Time, and for those of you in the East, it's 1:15. We're excited to have Amy Miller, the legendary recruiting and yoga pants blog master, and Kuiper satellite recruiter extraordinaire at Amazon. So if you don't know who Amy Miller is, you're not living, because she's like one of the coolest people around. Today, let me speak to my sponsor. We got HireScale, from Gannon and crew. And this segment is sponsored by them. Let's get going. So I want to invite Amy Miller back. We had a fun conversation the first time we did this, and it was really, really cool. And there was a lot going on, and it was just a really fun conversation. So I think where we're going with this one is, there have been some interesting things that we've seen, and I've been watching Amy be totally her, what's the word that we use? There's a specific word. Authentic. What, snarky?
Loud.
Snarky. Is that it? Is that the right word? Yeah. So you're
Snarky
like the ultimate
bits.
snark recruiter, and it's really good, right? I mean, because
Oh gosh.
you say it for what it's worth. So tell us what you really think about that Fang recruiter who was putting out the fact that you shouldn't have your open to work banner on your LinkedIn profile. What do you really think about that?
Yeah, what do I really think? In case anyone is not sure after all of my yelling. Here's where I struggle a little bit, Mike. And we've had lots of conversations about this. We've been friends for years, so you know me very well. I am one of the few, I think, in our industry that doesn't necessarily expect a career coach or a resume writer to have TA or talent acquisition experience. Is it a nice to have? Sure. Is it important to have an understanding of, how all that works and your audience and all that? Absolutely. Do I think it's required? No. But I think connection with TA, I think understanding the current market, I think there are definitely things that are important for those coaches and writers. Right. What offends me greatly is when someone who was experienced in TA a long time ago has not kept up with current market conditions, current labor market insights, current recruiting best practices, and general belief systems, including about the Green Banner, and uses their previous TA experience as some sort of anchor, like, well, I must be good because I worked at Google 10 years ago, so listen to me, even though what I'm saying is ludicrous. That offends me greatly. So that's where I get concerned. And this particular series of articles and series of posts, this is somebody who was at Google, again, a long time ago. I was at Google a long time ago. It's not that impressive, believe me.
Wasn't she
hired me, so come on.
Amazon? I think she was at Amazon.
There was another one that had been at Amazon previously as well. So there were two of them. Yeah, there were two of them.
Giving the same bad advice,
giving the same bad advice. They were featured in some similar articles. And I just, and it is absolutely okay if you are one of the, here's the reality. I mean, let's get down to brass tacks, Mike. Why do you think they would say that? What benefit do either of these individuals or anyone else in the same situation,
revenue,
what benefit do they have by telling you not to use a tool that's going to get you more visibility?
It means that they're going to have more opportunity to suck the money from you, basically.
Bingo.
Yep.
Now, paid services are wonderful. I'm all about paid services if it makes sense for you, if you have the disposable income to spend on it. I think that's great. Some of us just may need that depending on where we are in our career search. But to use fear mongering and to literally counter what 99% of the industry is saying in order to line your own pockets, I find that very gross.
For sure. Well, and then you had some other advice the other day that I really wanted to talk to you about. And I actually did this in an interview, and I said, okay, I said, is there anything that would keep you from, that I haven't addressed in this conversation, that would keep you from moving me forward? And it was something like that. And we had a little bit of a dialogue about it.
We did.
But what did you think about that?
Well,
Because
I
you
think
really came out with a very strong opinion
I
on that one.
did. I had a very strong opinion on it, but here's my thoughts on it. I am concerned about anything that has the potential to input negativity into the interview process.
Mm,
Right? That's where that concern comes from. Am I putting some kind of negative energy, thought pattern, something into this interviewer's mind? Now, I think the way you asked the question was more like that closing argument. You know, is there anything keeping you from driving home this vehicle today? Right? And I think that's a little different. And I also think, and you and I talked about this before we went live, you and I have played this game a lot for many years. So
hmm
we tend to, just by virtue of our exposure to interviewing
And
and
our
recruiting and
experience. Yeah.
hiring,
Yep.
right? We can kind of read the room in ways that the average job seeker cannot. And that's not a dig on them at
And that's
all
a
in
true
any
that's a
way.
true
It's
point. I
just the
think a lot
reality.
of yeah, and I think it's
Yeah.
just about being careful, and
Yeah, for
I think
sure.
you hit that on the mark. There's another topic that I want to come into that we just keep seeing that keeps coming back
Oh
over
boy.
and over and over and
Oh
over
my.
again. And let's just get it out there. It's the common, I mean, and this voice just keeps growing. And I think it's kind of silly, but I
Okay.
also think it doesn't I don't think it's here yet. So some people have been saying that AI has taken tech jobs, and that's
Uh-huh.
why the tech companies did some layoffs the way they did. And so now I've heard that argument out there, but I would say that that's only half the. It's not the full picture. So
Yeah.
it's not like AI has taken all of our jobs. It's not.
No.
It's not. It's
No.
not what happened this time. What
No.
did happen is that the companies overhired and they
Yes,
didn't plan well, and when they don't do that, it has a downstream effect that's a bigger
it does.
economic problem. And so like right now there's so many recruiters out of work
Yeah.
because just because of all that. Now, yeah, I mean AI is not going to take our jobs, but
No.
AI will enhance our jobs. Here's the key.
Absolutely.
Here's the and you'll agree with this. I think when and this is what I keep hearing from all the different conferences, what I heard when I went to Recruit DC
Mhm,
recently,
mhm.
SourceCon, all of them. Harness the tech to
Yes,
make yourself more productive. And if you're
yes.
good with prompts and you know how to do that, then you're going to be even more valuable. That's the way I want to look at
Absolutely,
it. So
absolutely. Think about, and we've both been in this industry a long time, but I think about when I got into recruiting, I didn't even have a computer. Like I was
it's
paper
evolution. Yep.
applications, filing cabinets,
The
the whole
phone
thing, right?
book,
Exactly. I had a
big
Rolodex, and all the
yellow
things.
pages.
Yes. Going through the Puget Sound Business Journal, looking for my leads, people who are hiring, who could I call? So my job has not changed that drastically. The core foundational bits of my job, connecting people and opportunity, has not changed. The mechanisms in which I make those connections has changed greatly. I've gone from paper applications to online applications. I've gone from, face-to-face interactions to email and phone calls and video calls. So, but the foundational, like, I'm going to talk with you about an opportunity and I'm going to work hard on behalf of this organization to find the people that solve their problems through talent, that hasn't changed. The
Right.
tools I use have changed greatly. And to your point, people who are willing to shift to those new ways of communicating
Adapt.
and
Yep.
tracking and documenting and all the things, they're the ones that are going to win on the backside of this. So, like, I had a boss who just absolutely hated email and
Mhm.
ended up like
Don't
and
we
just didn't
all?
want to do it, and ended up like going to like sell Frito-Lay or something. I can't remember. He like totally got out of staffing. I'm not saying because he didn't like email, but that was one of those culture shift moments where we started moving a lot of things electronically and started communicating via email, and data analysis looked very different once we had dashboards and reports. And that's the kind of stuff that we as a TA function need to keep up on, but it doesn't replace the human interaction, influence, the consulting. Like those things are still always going to foundationally exist, just like they have since Da Vinci's first resume in the 1500s. Just saying.
Yeah, and I miss a great old program called Lotus Notes.
I have Lotus Notes. It was the most ridiculous password. It was like 17 characters long.
I know. Oh,
Crazy.
do you still have it?
No,
Oh, you don't,
oh
right?
God, it's
Yeah.
been 20 years.
But you remember
98,
when
I
when
think.
you remember the little databases that were inside of it, and oh my gosh, and there's so much you could do with it. And I just, oh my gosh, I remember looking at it. I was like, what is this? It's just like this.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like this magic. There's these magical boxes in here. I click one and it does something. And it just
God.
changed so much. I'm just laughing about that. So what's the
I
other
know.
one there was another thing I was going to tell you.
Mhm.
So there's been so many changes, right? And just,
Yeah.
um, do you think that there's a lot more new entrants into recruiting in the last 4 years than there were? I mean,
Yes.
from 2019 to now, I mean, when we had that big
Yeah.
glut, did that create more, I mean, you know, newer recruiters in the market? I was just pondering that the other day. I was like, are there
I
more of
do.
those folks on the market?
I
And so,
do. Um, and I think, we talked about the overhiring, right? And I
mhm,
think a lot of companies, to keep pace with that overhiring or what they deemed to be appropriate hiring at the time,
mhm,
had to hire a bunch of recruiters. And so of course we were all getting calls, 100 times a day, and many of
yep,
us changed jobs or were happily ensconced in our current jobs or whatever. And so companies had to create more recruiters. So we saw the
mm,
rise of like recruiting boot camps and internships and training programs and things like that. And so we've created a bunch of new recruiters who really only recruited during this peak time. And now that we're in a valley again, which you and I have survived many valleys in our careers,
yep,
now we don't know what to do. Now it's like, oh my gosh, recruiting is terrible. How did this happen? And and we have the glut of really great people on the market, and up against more tenured experienced people, so that's also a difficulty, right? And so then you get
right.
into, and there's a problem on both sides of that, right? You have the really senior people who are being offered perhaps to them insultingly low compensation ranges, because that's what the
You're
market
so
is
right.
dictating right
Yep.
now. And then you also have the more junior person, or the person who's only been in recruiting for a few years, who's being beaten out by the more senior tenured folks, because so many of us have been laid
And
off or otherwise
sometimes it's the
impacted.
other way around. Sometimes the junior recruiters actually get
Absolutely.
the job because of the budget.
Yep.
And
Could be. Could
that's a
be.
new phenomenon I've seen too, like
Yeah.
the lowballing situation.
It's brutal.
I've heard it on
Yeah.
both sides, like even
Yeah.
my junior recruiter friends who I've talked to just to kind of get the lay of the
Mhm.
land. It's just interesting for them because their perspective is way different. And so I
Yeah.
do like to kind of talk to them and get their, and there's some really sharp ones. They're very smart. Um,
Yeah.
some of
For
them are,
sure.
and let's just say it, this drives me crazy. I hate it when I see this and I see sourcer slash junior recruiter, and you're like, no,
No.
no, no, it's not a junior recruiter, especially if they have
How
experience.
about senior recruiter slash junior sourcer? That would be me.
Oh man,
I am
right?
not a sourcing expert.
Oh my gosh, it's so crazy. But like, and knowing some sourcing is good for all of us. I think
Sure,
I've kind
absolutely.
of leaned in that direction myself, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I think what I've seen, yeah, after coming from Recruit DC, one thing I'm noticing
Yeah.
is that it's starting to pick up a little bit. So I'm getting more
Good.
calls.
Good.
And if you're in this market, my advice would be just this: keep content coming out, keep writing
Yeah.
articles, keep
Yeah. Stay top
vlogging,
of mind.
keep
Yeah.
do all that. And look at what it's done for your brand. People know who you are.
For better or worse, here we are.
No, no. And by the way, she's got this really, Amy Miller Recruiting in Yoga Pants. Go check out her website. It's absolutely fantastic.
Thank
And
you.
and she will put out her opinion and engage with. She's created this community of people.
Yeah.
I need to create my own website here pretty soon. I've
Yes,
been meaning
definitely. I
to.
did it all myself, Mike. I did
Did
every
you
bit
really?
of it completely. I
You
mean, I
bought the domain
obviously
name and everything.
I bought the
Wow.
domain. I use WordPress, and I have it hosted on Bluehost, not an advertisement, just saying what I use. But I have literally done everything myself. I've not hired a developer or anything for
Wow.
any part of it. So the
Maybe
fact
I
that
thought it
it
was just too
works
complex. Okay.
is huge.
Because I mean,
The
I know
fact that
enough
you can
about.
click on something and it
I
opens
might be
is,
able to do my own like junior programming here and the
I
CSS and
mean,
front end stuff, right?
I
Um,
Google a lot and I read a lot and I cry a lot, but I get it done. So one of these days I'm gonna like go professional and like actually have somebody professionally
well,
fix
it
it for
looks
me.
so
But so
dang.
far it's
It does
working.
look good though, and you've done a really.
Thank you.
You've
I
created your
worked
own
really
brand. You
hard
even
on
have your own.
it.
By the way, everybody, she has some very good merch, and you want to buy it. I bought the okayest
I
recruiter green
do.
sweatshirt, and I loved it.
So
Um,
comfy, right? Those
oh my
sweatshirts are
gosh, yes.
amazing. So
And
good.
you have something about robots too, don't you?
I do.
Like the robot something or other. I'm gonna have to buy one
Yeah,
of those.
yeah,
The
I do.
robot.
Yeah, there's
You know what you're gonna?
something on
Okay, this
there.
is okay. You're gonna have to
Gotta
merch
find it.
this. The
Okay.
robot threatened to take my job, but I took the robot's job.
Ooh. I was told there would be robots, and all I got was this lousy T-shirt. I don't know. We got to play with this. We got to figure out something.
Yeah, I think you actually have that one, don't you?
I have something. I have so many. You know
Oh
what
my,
happens?
that's so
I
funny though.
just get like something. Somebody will say something funny. Like I have a poster. It was over there. I can't pull it off the wall right now, but it says recruiters are barnacles on a ship of lies. And I actually like found a clip art of a ship, and and this was a tweet someone sent me. They really did not like recruiters. And I'm like,
Yeah,
that's
so
funny.
so there is a funny one. So there's a funny meme that shows, and it's Jack Sparrow,
Hmm.
the the pirate from
Oh yeah.
Pirates of the Caribbean, and he's being chased by all those natives, and it says,
Yes.
and the line of the meme is, oh gosh, what does it say? A recruiter, oh, a software engineer being chased by recruiters after they update their LinkedIn profile.
True. That's true.
And so there has to be other ones like um,
Oh gosh.
that moment. Oh yeah, what that moment you could have one. This one could be a merchandisable one.
Hmm.
That moment when the hiring manager wants one more resume.
How dare you? I'm fighting words, hiring manager.
Isn't it true though? I mean, it's so funny because I've had those happen so many times, and it just makes me laugh.
I
It's just so funny.
it's amazing. It's amazing. I always wanted to do like a spin-off of the you're the worst recruiter I've ever heard of, but you've heard of me. That's always what goes through my head when people don't like me.
Or something like this. It's an employer's market, but soon it will be a candidate's again. Beware.
It will. It will come back
So
around.
something
We've
something.
seen it.
So I've got to come up with some of these and then merchandise some of these because I've
Yeah.
got to
Super fun.
the where's your next factor, making sure the
Yeah.
hiring manager takes action
And
or
look, it's
something.
so
I don't know.
easy. I
I need
just use a
something.
print on demand service. Like you should totally do it. It's so easy. It's when somebody orders something, that's when, I don't have inventory, I don't have anything like that. It's just I just have
And it
funny
doesn't give you
ideas and
any
I throw them
profit.
up. So you can set the pricing, and I've set the pricing to pretty minimal profit. I make like a buck or something off of every piece of merchandise, but I actually donate all of the proceeds
Oh,
to
that's
an
cool.
animal shelter.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
because
great.
it's not a moneymaker, right? Like I'm talking pennies in general, because I try to make it affordable because the goal is just to have fun with it. I just want to have fun. I want
True.
people to enjoy it. It's not a moneymaker for me. So I take that revenue, that little bit of revenue, and I just give it to an animal show. Like at the end of the year, I tally it all up and I give it to the NOAA Center in Stanwood,
So
Washington, and I give the receipt to my tax lady.
so we've had some fun talking through different things that you're doing, and I love your blog. I always have.
Thank you.
It's really good. So make sure you go check it out. But if there was one thing that's driving you crazy right now in this market that you want to just get on your soapbox and say, okay, everybody that's out there, stop doing this. What would that be?
Stop demonizing each other. There
Okay.
is so much frustration. Job seekers are mad at recruiters. Recruiters are mad at hiring managers. Hiring managers are mad at everybody. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know about that part. But there's so much like finger pointing and frustration and anger and hurt. I'm actually going to address. So here's an example. Okay. We have been hearing a bit, there's still some layoffs happening. I think the most recent ones I heard about were Nike and Visa. I have
Okay.
friends that work at both. I'm like devastated on their behalf, of course, and job loss is never fun or easy or something any of us ever want. But I'm now starting to see an uptick again, as we did months ago and months before that, where how dare you hire? How dare you as a company hire when you just laid people off?
Mm.
And I think there's a knowledge gap there. And I'm going to address this on Friday's video for anyone following my channel. Shameless plug. But I'm going to address what happens. And I've had this experience at a previous organization, not my current employer, but a previous company I worked at, which I'll talk more about, of what happens behind the scenes.
Mm,
We do everything we can to
right.
retain and
Yep.
rehire. So I think there's a knowledge gap there.
Yep.
And that's fine because you don't know what you don't know. But what frustrates me is when we take that knowledge gap and fill it with our own assumptions and then just start firing off,
Oh, you
and
reminded me of one.
attacking and
You remind me of a
angry.
big.
You know what I mean?
You reminded me of one big issue. Okay,
Tell
I'm
me.
gonna. Okay, you got to preach on this one.
Okay, I'm
Okay,
ready.
the ATS uses artificial intelligence to filter out candidates, and humans don't see them.
Please just show me just one. I've been looking for years. I want to see just one. I want to see this in action one time before I die because I have not seen it in none of the systems I've used. I think, again, this is where we're filling a knowledge gap, right? With our assumptions. Do I use AI to source? 100%. I love me some Hire Easy as an example, right? I love
Right.
that. I use different filters and options in LinkedIn Recruiter, right? That is not the ATS. That is not how we filter or provide fair consideration to direct
So
applicants. That
this
is a
is it. This
sourcing
is
activity.
interesting. I know ADP has come out with something recently
Yeah,
that it ranks. So just to kind of give you
correct.
some background information,
Yeah,
it's not the ATS who's choosing your resume out. A human still looks at it,
yeah,
but the way it's used is that the ATS ranks it from a
correct.
match perspective and gives. So again, which is why the advice to make sure that you have keywords on your resume that
Hmm.
match the job description as much as
Yeah,
possible is still great advice, but it's not the end all be all because a
no.
good recruiter will still review them. And I know the ones that my
Mhm.
colleagues that were at ADP who had that tool and that it ranked them using AI.
Yeah,
It didn't mean that you were cut out completely. They did review
correct.
every resume. It
Correct.
just means that they were just trying to get the ones who had them that were the best fit to the top.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference. It's not a human still looking at it, but with AI assistance in some cases, I think is a better
Well,
way of putting it. In
and
some cases, depends.
here's my experience with the ranking because I've seen that a couple times, not in my current role, but in previous lives, previous ATSs I've used, I've seen it. I regularly rejected high matches, regularly hired low matches because
That's
the
interesting.
logic was flawed. And let me explain. If it is a keyword match or a key concept terms match, whatever, okay, that's fine. You're going to end up with these keyword stuffed nightmares, which is a quote from one of my hiring managers. This is a keyword stuffed nightmare. I don't know what this person actually did. And so you get these resumes that have a lot of words, but no
Um,
context. I don't know what that person did. I can't formulate it. I can't, see the mental picture
you
of
know
what they
why that
did.
is?
I'm going to move
Do you know why
on.
that is? Here's another really bad piece of advice.
Tell me.
Don't fill your resume with white
Oh, goodness.
text at the bottom to match the
The
keyword.
worst. The
It,
worst.
and people and recruiters hate that, by the way. So don't
It's
do
really
that.
annoying. It's
But
really annoying
but
because we don't see the context,
if
right? Like, okay,
exactly.
that's
So
fun.
if you can put it in the context, though, that's
Mhm,
okay. But don't put
mhm,
all the
mhm.
white words on the bottom. And I know
It's
many
useless.
recruiters hate that so much
It's
because
u it's
it's
useless. It's useless. So I would reject those all day long, right? Like, I can't tell what this person did. There's no context. I can't move forward with this person. I would have somebody with a, 40% match or whatever, and they maybe only used the keyword once. But that's all I needed because I saw, oh, this person's used this technology. They were able to break down for me the analysis they did and the result of that effort and how it improved or made, saved, achieved, whatever. That's the person I'm moving forward with. And so this is really like, I, I talk about it a lot. You talk about it a lot. I wish more recruiters felt confident and comfortable sharing their experiences as well. And I know many don't for very good reasons because people will try to get you fired. but I think that is the critical context that we should be sharing with job seekers and we should be
sure.
helping them
There's nothing wrong with
navigate
being
how hiring
honest
actually
about
happens.
it. There's nothing wrong with being honest about the hiring process and how we do it. I think
You'd think.
sometimes Yeah, but transparency and just explaining, hey, here's the way I think you can present it. You
Yeah.
say, hey, we have an intake meeting with the hiring manager to make sure we
Hmm.
have the right profile down, and then we're very
Yeah.
consultative. We show them how many candidates are out there,
Yep.
and then what we do is we show them how many candidates are really in that market. But we also
Absolutely.
we also kind of get the right profile in the beginning, so we don't waste the hiring manager's time. And then once we know the
Absolutely.
the market, or what we're looking for, then we can have dialogue with the candidates. And so here's the other thing I think that's important. If you're a candidate out there, one of the most amazing things that you can do is have just, when you're talking to the recruiter, and you're emphasizing the context of
Yeah.
where you used it. It's okay to put skills. Say you have
Yeah.
the
Yeah. It's totally
say
fine.
you have, skills that are keywords. That's okay. I
Yeah.
see nothing wrong with that. Um, so that's a key thing that I think more and more job seekers need to be doing, is just
Hmm.
using the keywords in the right way.
Yeah. It's totally
and
fine. Yeah.
and then putting, if they're in context and you have bullets that address how you use those keywords and the sense, then you're going to be more of a match,
That's the key.
because
That's the key.
exactly, because you want to just make sure that's understanding of how it
Yeah.
fits into the puzzle. So if you're
Yeah.
tailoring your resume, that's the way to tailor
One of my most popular videos, and believe me, I am a baby creator. I get hundreds of views and I'm excited. Like it's not that big of a deal. It's a
it.
big deal to me, but just in the bigger world, I'm a small time creator. But one of my best performing videos is how to read a job description like a recruiter.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
based on the comments I received and even a lot of the private messages I received, people's minds were blown
Hmm.
because I walk through exactly that, Mike. I walk through like, hey, when I'm reading that job description as the recruiter and consulting with the hiring manager, here's the questions I'm asking. Here's the data I'm trying to gather. Here's the insights I need to do a good job for my hiring manager. So here's where you should also focus. And people were like couldn't believe it. Like it made sense. Once they like thought about it through that lens and like listened to what I was saying, they're like, this totally checks out. I'm like, I know, right? I've been
Were
saying
you
this for
looking at a
years.
resume while you did that, or were you looking at a job description?
I was looking at a job description. So I actually
Oh,
grabbed a job description from I think it might have been Lockheed Martin. I can't remember, but I like grabbed a random job description from a company that is not my company and not a company I've ever worked with. And I just went through it like, okay, here's the list of responsibilities. I'm honing in on those. The first responsibility listed, probably the most important to the hiring manager, right? Because they write down in the order of importance, like subconsciously, right? And
yep.
I just kind of went through like step by step how I would take this information from a job description and what I would do to my resume to match them up. Because in my opinion, if
Totally.
you're taking more than 5 or 10 minutes to target your resume, you're applying to the wrong jobs.
Yeah, for sure.
It
All
shouldn't
right.
be that complicated.
I've got something for you.
What do
Okay,
we
we're gonna
got?
do it. We're gonna do a little exercise, and I'm gonna put you on the
I
spot.
love exercises. This was not
Yeah.
scripted, y'all. I have no idea what's coming.
No, it's not. We're gonna just see how good she is.
Oh boy.
All right,
Okay.
here we go.
Oh gosh.
Okay. Can you see it?
Okay. It's
All
load.
right.
Okay, I see it. Okay. Oh, okay.
This is a
All
satellite
righty.
engineer, lead engineer, Red Hat satellite
Oh, red
automation
hat
engineer.
champion.
Right in your
Okay.
wheelhouse. So tell us what you're looking
I
for.
should know this one. This should be easy. Okay, so I'm immediately looking at the qualification. So minimum 5 years of recent experience. This is going to be a fairly senior person. They really want 10 years. They're just calling it 5 years because their recruiter probably browbeat them. Okay, bash scripting skills. I'm really honing in on those technical areas. So, okay, scripting, Red Hat. Okay, proficient in using Red Hat Satellite. I'm going to have to Google some stuff. But now I want to flip over to the responsibilities. So, what
Mhm.
am I actually doing? Okay, this is an infrastructure role. So, this looks to me like this is
Right here.
maybe kind of a DevOps engineer,
Mhm.
right? Like, this is not necessarily someone who is just banging out code. This is somebody who's actually really like building and keeping infrastructure up and running.
Yep, look at this stuff right
This is like
here.
a
See this?
systems engineer. Yeah.
This proxy
Yeah.
firewalls, load balancing, this kind of
Yeah.
stuff, troubleshooting. And then they're going to have it's definitely going to have some Linux and the
Yeah.
Red Hat security stuff. So all of that would
That's
be important.
interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And then
Those are going to be the things I'm honing in on, right? Like obviously I got to match up the tech. This is somebody who has built and designed automation for systems. That's what I'm picking up here.
yeah, and the other piece of this that I would notice, they
Mhm.
have Big Fix, which is probably they've got that all over the place. They've
Okay.
got some ServiceNow mixed in there.
Yep.
So some of this is this ServiceNow stuff, which means tech support to some degree, and that's
Mhm.
going to have
Mhm.
some automation scripting stuff. So all of this kind of comes together and makes sense.
Yeah.
But again, it's also the one thing that you'd also keep an eye out is this, that they're at KPMG. So if they have some consulting
Interesting.
background, then
Yeah.
they're probably doing this is probably for one of their clients, most likely. And I don't think KPMG has satellites, but maybe I could be wrong.
I
Um,
mean, who doesn't
anything's
these
possible.
days? No,
So,
that's
but
really interesting. I would not have expected to see that from KPMG. So yeah, I
yeah,
think you're right. I think this is somebody who's maybe going in on
consulting
a
engineer of some kind. Yeah.
consulting basis. Like you are an employee of KPMG, but you're actually being deployed to, I don't know, maybe Maxar or Boeing or one
Hmm.
of the who knows? I'm making that up. I'm just throwing out names I've heard of. But
Do you
so
want to see?
that's really interesting. Yeah, let's look at another
Here's
one.
another one: Global Enterprise Satcom.
Services. Okay. Now
I'm
is
not scaring
this
you too much with this stuff, am I?
no.
DoD. Look at this.
Okay, so this person needs to have a clearance. That's going to be
Security
like
clearance.
box number
Absolutely.
1.
Right here.
You can
See it?
end the US citizenship, which was
SC
also on the
plus.
other
There it
job.
is. Right there.
Yep.
DoD level 2 security
Those are
clearance.
going to be
Right
the
there.
two most important things, citizenship
Yep.
and clearance.
Hmm.
And then
VO. I haven't seen this for a long time.
support.
VoIP. Don't see that very often anymore.
No, you really don't, which is interesting.
Yeah,
So
it's just
this again, this looks like kind of a DevOps systems engineer type of
and look at this. They have this. This
networking.
is
Oh, okay. So they got to
these are
have the
these
Cisco
networking
certs.
protocols
Yep.
down here. See, interesting
Yeah.
stuff.
Haven't
But
seen that for a while either.
yeah, so they someone who's worked at a
My
government
guess,
contractor.
I'm purely speculating here. My guess is this is an existing platform that you're going to come in and keep functioning. This
Yep,
is not new build. This is not, developing and building something brand new. This is you're
yep.
coming in and you're going to keep something alive.
Well, see, and then they also have a lot of security stuff on this one too. So
Mhm.
I'd be watching for some security like this kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
The implementation of these are all going to be your networking things that connect with,
Yeah.
again, VoIP
And
is just so interesting. See,
a
voice
lot
over
of
IP.
government services are legacy systems that have been around for 20 years. And so you've got that one little pillar, right, that's holding up the entire thing. And it's like old and this is where we get like our COBOL devs and some of that. And
Oh
then there's a
man.
market for that, right? There's a market for
Oh yeah.
that. So I know a lot of people are excited about the new shiny,
What
we've
was it
already
that
talked about
didn't they
AI,
call
but
those things Z systems? Remember those?
oh yeah.
I'm I'm trying to remember what those were called. There was like the Z. I think that's what they were called, like Z systems, and they were
That
mainframes.
definitely sounds familiar. Yeah, boy, it's changed a lot. But that's what's funny about some of these roles is that some of these older
I'll stop
technologies
sharing.
are still holding up some of the newer technology that's been built on top of it. So we need those engineers as well. It's really fascinating stuff. So, how did I do? Did I pass? Are you
You
going to
did
hire
really
me?
good. You did really good. I think well, you got a compliment too, super ladies and gents.
Oh.
I don't know. I can't. It says LinkedIn user, so I don't know who that's from, but we
Hmm.
got some commentary. Yeah.
Well, thank
Anyway,
you.
I think it's good because when a job seeker sees this and sees two recruiters kind of talking through what we
Yeah.
look for. See, that's the other thing is I still I'm kind of old school. I like to print my job
Yeah.
descriptions and I'll take a highlighter and go
Oh my
and then
gosh, where's my
and then
highlighter? I have my highlighter. And I have a red pen somewhere because I like to write in
oh yeah,
red so I can
you're like
yeah.
Stacey Donovan's apart. She redlines the.
Yes!
I don't know if
There's
you've
my
ever
red
heard her
pen
presentations. She redlines the job descriptions still. It's so funny.
all the time.
It's like being a it's like being a grading like a teacher grading the
Yes! Like a
papers.
school teacher.
So funny. And anyway, I think what's good is it's just a good exercise to go through because a lot of
Yeah,
job seekers there's just a lot of rumors out there and there's a lot of opinions
there
that
are.
don't make sense. Um,
And
What
that's what
other
I tell
advice?
job seekers to do. I literally say that, like, print it out, or if you don't want to print it, save it to your desktop or whatever and highlight it. Highlight those key concepts. What is the
Yep.
responsibility? Well,
And
you
you can
have to
highlight in
develop
the Word document too. So that's
exactly. The
um,
highlight, develop automated scripting. Okay, great. That was something we saw in one of the jobs. I'm going to highlight that. Now, can I highlight that same thing on my resume?
yep.
Do
Yeah,
those
and here,
highlights match?
yes,
That's
and
what we want to see.
the other thing that really works well is many hiring managers. What they typically need um, is they're trying to solve a problem, and so
Yeah, for sure.
if you're able to, when you're doing interviews, and even for our younger recruiter friends who are out there might be watching
Yeah.
this, trying to go, what can I do to stand out? I've got this crazy
Mhm.
market that I'm in, and I don't know how to deal with it. The best thing you can do is, you know, get a feel for what the problems are in that market. Ask a
Mhm.
simple question of the hiring manager in the interview process. What's your number one
Yeah,
problem? What are you facing that
yeah,
makes it hard for recruiters here?
yeah,
And listen to the answer, and then
yeah,
be consultative and say, well, here's what I can do, and here's what I've done.
yeah.
And if it's diversity, talk about how you increase the diversity slate. if it's
Absolutely.
if it's sourcing and they didn't have enough candidates, how
Mhm,
did you increase that?
mhm,
And
mhm.
right now it might be, how do you stay organized when you've got 10,000 resumes to look through and it's a skeleton crew for recruiters?
Exactly,
How do you stay on
exactly.
top of your game and then
Yeah.
represent your brand, in the right way? Because
And how do you
that's
still
the
provide
issue.
fair consideration? That is so important to me as I think about, what job seekers are up against and really what they want from us, which is transparency and communication. How do we provide fair consideration? Do I
Yep.
expect every recruiter at every company to read every resume? Of course not. That doesn't make sense in many cases. And so if we look at those two jobs that you shared, both of them had a US citizen requirement. And I
Right.
understand that. That's an ITAR restriction. Your argument is with the government, not with us. But that is a great case for a knockout question, an automated workflow where we set up a yes no decision tree. If you answer yes to this question, you are moved forward. If you answer no to this question, you are dispositioned. That, my friends, is still fair consideration because we've taken a clear, non negotiable yes no question. We've applied it to
Right.
the application process, which allows people to either read the job description and say, oops, I don't have that, and then just not apply. Or if they do apply, there's that secondary filter of like, hey, this is important. Answer honestly, and then that
Yep.
helps us really stem the flow of unqualified applicants. And I know unqualified is not a nice word, but you're qualified for something else, just not this, and that's okay. I'm not
Well,
qualified for either of those
I
roles
have
we
to
looked at.
say that Amy was qualified as a princess recently because she got to wear her crown on a boat, right?
I
So,
did.
and I saw that and it made me laugh and I was smiling the whole time because I'm like, this is Amy. And if you know
Classic,
Amy, this is
classic
classic
Miller.
Amy. That's so awesome. And
Don't make a
it's
big
just,
deal. Make all the big deals.
oh boy. Oh,
No,
well,
no, please, please, no attention.
other things that I think are great to talk about, right now in this market, one of the
Yeah,
things that I think is that we've kind of gotten away from, and it's so interesting that all these recruiters are doing this, and I
yeah.
just don't comprehend it. So David
Mm.
Perry, I'm going to give him a call out because he came out with
Okay.
this book called Guerrilla Marketing for Job Hunters, and it's absolutely
Oh,
fantastic.
I don't think I've seen it. Okay. I'll have to
It's
check it
really
out.
good. And he's actually he's updating it. So he's an executive recruiter.
Nice.
But one of the things he talks about is doing things that are different than
Mhm.
the average job seeker. So what are all the recruiters doing that, like, it's so interesting to me that they're just doing this. They're going to the front door.
Yeah.
These LinkedIn postings in about a matter of hours have 500 people on them. So that what they do, they're
Mm.
like, oh, I see a posting, I'm going to go apply. So they apply to it, but then they leave it at that, and
Mhm.
that's it. They don't
Mhm.
follow up. They don't send a note. They don't do anything to
Yeah,
get to the hiring manager and make themselves seen. And sometimes that small little thing can make the big difference
it
in
can.
a
For
recruiting
sure.
environment like we're in right now. And I've been
Yeah.
doing that. I mean, it's something I've had to do. And even if I get rejected, I'm like, okay, that's fine.
But
But
you've made the attempt. Yeah, I
right.
it,
And even
there's
picking up, you'd be
yeah.
amazed if you can find their contact information and leave
Yeah.
them a phone call. Do you
Mm.
know
Nobody
how
leaves
many
messages anymore.
no, But if you do, and they hear you, they're like, whoa, this is amazing.
This
And you
person's
actually get a
serious.
callback most of the time. So
Interesting.
ironically, the same concept that we've learned as recruiters
Yeah.
is you reverse engineer it. So you find their contact
Sure.
information,
Yeah.
you go to the person, you find them, right? And then, but there's a lot of recruiters not doing that right now. And it's
A
just,
lot of our industry friends have not been well trained, and that's not their fault, right? They were
Mhm.
hired at the height of the pandemic when, recruiting was crazy, and we homegrowned a bunch of recruiters, but we didn't train them
All
on the
right.
fundamentals, and that makes me sad.
Yeah. And even here's something that's important for your brand. Believe it or not, this can come back and actually help you. I've had
Yeah.
candidates reach out to me that saw that I was looking, and they have opened doors. They've actually gotten me
Yeah.
interviews, okay? Because they
That's
were on the inside.
amazing.
They knew how I had treated them as a human
Mhm.
being. They reached out and said, "Mike, I see you're on the market. You're a great recruiter. I need to get you
Yep.
hired." So they'll
Yep.
they'll open doors and have
Highest
conversations.
praise.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely. And
amazing.
but keep in
That's
mind,
amazing.
if you're recruiting recruiters right now, the candidate experience that you give to our own is
Mhm.
actually more visible. So imagine if you
True.
ghost a recruiter, you don't close the loop with the recruiter, you don't, can you imagine doing
Oh,
that
we're all
over
gonna
and
hear
over
about
and
it.
over and over again? Oh, we will hear about it, but they're not going to tell
We
that
will hear about
person.
it.
They're not going to tell that person.
No, they're gonna
The
tell their
company will
friends.
be known. They're going to tell their
Yeah.
friends, but you gain a
Yeah.
reputation
Sadly, yes.
within
Yeah.
the industry, within the network of being
Yeah.
a ghoster, of being the thing that you don't want to be. And imagine trying to, so later you're going to try to come and get a job from one of those folks and you'll be
Yeah.
rejected and you won't know why. So it's interesting how candidate experience, like Kevin Grossman, the king of candidate
Mhm,
experience,
mhm.
we
Yeah.
were talking about how recruiters were being ghosted, how some were being lowballed, how some were being,
Mm.
just not, no transparency in the process.
Yeah.
People weren't keeping their promises. It's just things like this, and we get it. You're a skeleton crew. You're
Yeah.
overwhelmed. You got so many things. But let's just say this: if you are a recruiting recruiter right now, if you're recruiting a recruiter in any way, shape, or form, please take your candidate experience to another level,
Yeah.
because it can be twice as bad as a regular job seeker. If I saw, oh my God, I went to Reddit the other day, recruiting hell, and I saw,
Oh, yes.
and I read like 4 or 5 recruiter experiences,
Yeah.
and one of them actually used a name at a company,
Oh, no.
and I saw it and I was like, ooh. And imagine your Glassdoor ratings getting that hit
Yeah, would
and it
not
becoming
be
viral.
great.
So it's like, now say you did something racist, sexist, or any of the above,
Mhm,
and then it
mhm.
gets published out into the
Yeah.
marketplace.
Screenshots are forever.
It's gonna bite you too. And so
Yeah.
this is the stuff that I just don't comprehend. It's like, why are we not being smart about our own recruiting processes with fellow recruiters? That just
It's golden
blows
rule
my
stuff,
mind.
right?
Blown.
Like, treat people how you wanna be treated. That's
Yep.
that's it. Like, it should be that simple. If I were going through this recruiting process with this organization, how would I follow up? How would I close the loop? What information would I share? Now, I will say, a lot of people are not clear on the definition of ghosting.
Yes. Yep.
Two-way communication has been established and has come to an end without closure.
Uh-huh.
You applying
That's a
to a
good.
role and not hearing
Yep.
back is not ghosting. You dropping a resume into my LinkedIn inbox, which I'm begging you not to do because it's a mess in there, and me not seeing the message is not ghosting.
No.
Us having a conversation and me not following up with either a specific next step or an end to the conversation is ghosting.
Hmm.
So I
Yep.
think that's important for us to call out. But yeah, I've been ghosted
The
in recruiting
definition.
as
Oh
a
yeah.
candidate. I have been ghosted.
Yep. And a lot of us have. And
Yeah,
in this
and
market,
it
the one we're
sucks.
in right now, let's just say it for what it is. Take your candidate experience to another level with
You have
recruiters,
to for
especially.
every
and
exactly
and do
because
it for
it
everybody,
sets the
sure, but
standard. Yeah,
it's going to be twice as bad to do it to a recruiter. And I hate to say it, because the ones who actually do this for a living and they see it, they're going to be like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then the ones who don't, they're going to be like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then the ones who don't, they're going to be like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then the ones who don't, they're going to be like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then the ones who don't, they're going to be like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then the ones who don't, they're going to be like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then the ones who don't, they're going to be like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then the ones who don't, they're going to be like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then the ones who don't, they're going to be like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then the ones who don't, they're going to be like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then the ones who don't, they're going to be like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then the ones who don't, they're going to be like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then the ones who don't, they're going to be like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then the ones who don't, they
Yeah.
Word's going to get out in their network and it's going to hurt you.
We are a
And
mouthy bunch.
oh yeah, and they may not post it, they may not socially shame you, but it's going to get into the network
We're
and
whispering at conferences.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so the number one
See that
advice,
guy over there, Mike? He ghosted me. Don't
but
talk to him.
I guess
You
the point is
shouldn't.
be human in every single interaction, and
Be human.
and even in you know, here's my rule of thumb: if you interview them, give them some kind of personal closure. Email's
Yeah.
fine. Email's
Agreed.
okay. You can send them a personal email. Do that. If you can do a phone call, it's even better. They'll be blown away. If you
You
can
know
do a
what I like to
text,
do?
I think that's fine too. Just closure of some kind.
Here's the magic. Here's the magic. Okay. This is a free tip for y'all. Before the interview, ask them how they want to get follow up.
Ooh, that's even better.
Like, that was a game changer
Yes.
for me when I
Yes.
started doing that,
Oh
because
yeah.
I
Mhm. I do that too.
typically have always kind
Great
of
point.
worked under the
Forgot. Yep.
assumption or the rule, if you will, that you follow up with a phone call.
And then you should be doing that
I
with your
know
hiring managers too. Like
you
hiring Mr. Hiring
absolutely.
Manager, how do you like to be
How do
communicated
you
with?
want to communicate,
Uh,
right? I've got Slack channels with some, I've got email threads with others, I've got weekly stand-ups with some. So it's it depends on the needs of the organization and the hiring manager, whatever. But I remember that being a game changer for me personally, because I don't want a phone call. I don't even answer the phone for my family. Like, if it's important, text me. Okay. I do not answer the phone. Ask anybody who has my phone
well, see,
number.
I would do two. I would send I would call to see if I could catch them.
Yeah.
And then I'd
Yeah.
follow it up with an email and say, "Hey, I didn't catch you, but I wanted you to know that we really
But
enjoyed
here's
having you."
the
Blah 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 blah,
exactly.
and
And a
just give them a
personalized
thank you.
outcome.
I like
Yeah.
to give them a thank you. I
Yeah.
like to say
Oh,
thank you for going through
100%.
the process. This kind of
It's
thing.
a big investment on
Um,
their part. And that's
yeah,
what I tell
and
people.
right, and any
Yeah.
interviewer, I do that. Like anyone who
Yeah.
interviewed, that they get that personal closure.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
ones
It's
who I
important.
know aren't a fit, I will immediately update them as quickly as I can. Um, Now, sometimes there's an argument to be made. Maybe wait a couple days instead of the weekend. Um, don't do it on
You're
a
never going
weekend.
to make
Maybe do it on
everybody
a
happy
Monday.
though with that.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, it's a fair point. I mean, maybe you send it on a Monday or a Tuesday. Kind of do it
Yeah.
midweek. I think that's okay. But get them closure ASAP. That's the most important thing you can do within a week at least.
So here's
I think.
another suggestion. If you have a calendar link, and this is what I would do. If you have a calendar link, hey, Mike, your interview scheduled for Monday. We should have an update for you by the end of the week. I can give you a call or shoot you an email or
Yep.
text you, whatever you prefer, starting from like noon Friday. Here's a link to my calendar. If you prefer that, you can schedule it for the time that works for you. If you
Mhm.
prefer a different mechanism, you want to text, you want to email, whatever, let me know that too. So I am pre-scheduling the outcome. You
Yeah.
know when you're going to get it, you know what mechanism you're going to receive it in, and you can control it. Because what I don't want to do, and I've made this mistake, I've called somebody at like 6 p.m. on a Friday. They're about to go out to dinner with their family to celebrate, and I'm dropping bad news on them. I hate that. It breaks my heart. So I would much rather put the control back in my candidate's hand. When and how do you want to hear from me, so that
I
you
love
can
that. That's
control it?
great. Yeah, and it just comes down to being a good human being at the end of the
Mhm.
day. I think that's our number one thing, and
Absolutely.
we got to try to
Absolutely.
have that humanity come back into the process.
Yeah.
It's the number one thing that's coming up more and more right now, especially with skeleton crews within
Yeah.
recruiting, is
It's
the
tough,
closure.
for
And if you have
sure.
the ability to at least close the loop, you're going to be that
So
much better of a
important.
recruiter, and
So
your reputation
important.
will go up. And many of those candidates could be silver medalists. They could be ones that you hire later. In fact, if you know that you've got a really good candidate that's really strong,
Mhm.
treat them like
Mhm.
gold and check in with them, because it's just a matter of the when. You could be hiring that person in 3 or 4 months very easily. It can happen
Here's
all the
a
time.
very important question I think all candidates should be able to ask and feel comfortable asking. We know we're not going to get feedback in most cases, that for whatever reason. We can debate the policies, we can debate the best practices, if we like them or don't like them. That's really not our job to set that, unless you are the TA leader who gets to set it, and then good for you.
Yep.
But knowing that most of us are going to be bound by certain,
Parameters.
practices that we
Yep.
can't give specific feedback, here's the question I want job seekers to ask. If I see another opportunity with your organization, would it make sense to reach out to you, Or can I reapply? And does your company have a cooling off period?
Mm,
Google
it's a
Google
great
has a
point.
cooling off period. If you have been rejected for a role, you cannot be reconsidered for anywhere from 1 to 2 years. There
Interesting.
are going
Really?
to be some, absolutely. There will be
Didn't know
some
that.
circumstances. Yep. There's a 1 to 2 year cooling off period. Now, there will be some circumstances where you may have passed the loop, but we just didn't have the right team or we didn't have the right role. So that could be what we would call an immediate, revisit or something, right? We wouldn't have that cooling off period. But
Hmm.
for the most part, because Google hires for the company, and then team match can come later, or you might go in with a specific team in mind, but whatever, there's lots of nuances that we can get into another time. But you cannot be reconsidered for a role in most cases for a minimum of 1 year. So if I know
Wow.
that to be true, I'm not going to bother calling Google again for a
Makes complete
year,
sense. Yeah,
right? And so if you know
and I
that, you
think you
can
need
set
to
the
ask
right
that as a candidate
expectations.
too.
You
You
do,
should
yeah.
ask that question. The other
Should I
thing that,
reapply? Should I
from a
wait?
TA point
Whatever.
of view,
Hmm.
is keep in mind that for some roles, there's always going to be a pipeline step. So
Oh
you
yeah,
might see an
absolutely.
evergreen. You can always
Hmm.
ask the recruiter if you get like a phone screen, is this an
Yeah.
evergreen opening? Are you looking to hire this
Yes.
right now? What is your
Yes.
timetable? Blah blah blah
Yes.
blah blah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you need to kind of drill down in that case. And sometimes I think my favorite question at the end of every interview I get is, what is your timetable and how long will you decide?
Yes.
And
Yes. Brilliant question.
yeah,
Brilliant
yeah.
question.
Well, we're coming to time.
Yeah.
That went so fast.
It
That's amazing how
did.
quickly time can go so quickly with
So
having you on.
quick.
That's because we're friends and we just kind of go. We kind of
We just hang
we
out.
feed off each other.
Catching
But it's
up.
been great having you. And if you ever want me on
Thank
your
you
show
so much.
sometime,
Yes. I've been thinking about that, Mike. And so yes, let's talk about that. I will shoot you a text or an email, my friend, because I do want to expand beyond just kind of the one to many me talking at people. And I would love to start peppering in like some
I'm
interviews and
thinking
some
of doing some. I'm going to
features.
try to make some podcast out of this. I'm still learning how to do
Love
that.
it.
Now, I
Yeah.
will put a plug out here. If you haven't seen this guy yet, check out Ben Mina's The Elite Recruiter
Oh,
podcast.
so good.
Woo, it's good.
So
It's a
good.
really good one, and I'm learning from him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, mine's
He
just
is
this little
stellar.
vlogcast. I'm learning. I'm like doing my thing. But hey, I'm
We're
up
all
to
learning.
130 subscribers. Woohoo! Still. Hey, go to Where's Your Next? Sign up. We talk everything. We talk talent, future of work, everything. So
Love it.
and gig work. I'm doing gig
And
economy.
gig work.
So this week I'm doing my Overcomer Mandisa tribute through gig work. She just
Love
passed
that.
away 2 months ago. So, and I'm giving to two charities. About 10 to 20% of my profits will go to the Breast Cancer Foundation or the Stop Abuse Foundation. So there's two,
Mm,
because those were
worthy
two issues
causes.
that affected Mandisa's life. And
Wow.
when she wrote this song, Overcomer. So
Yeah.
really amazing person.
My
So,
mom loved that song. And I know, Mike, my mom passed just a few months back from colon cancer. And my mom loved that song. And I remember I was going through a very difficult, I don't remember the exact details, but just had a very, going through some stuff in my own life. And my mom sent me that song. And she said, Amy, this is you.
oh,
And so
that's cool.
that has a really
No, you
special place
are.
in my heart
You're
because of
very,
that.
I think there's a lot of us who, just as our
Yeah.
parting thought today, if you're a recruiter out there and you're going through this market right now, just
Yeah.
stay the course. And
Stay the
that goes for
course.
all job seekers. This is a very different market. And don't
Yeah.
be ashamed. Don't be frustrated. It's not you. Okay.
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
think I think both of us can readily agree on that. And I know Amy
Absolutely.
is advocating for job seekers all the time and just giving great
Yeah.
advice. And that's why your following is where it is.
Thank you.
But yeah, just don't give up. I mean, that's the number one message
Yeah.
we'll say today. But from two
Yes.
recruiters on this Tuesday from Where's Your Next? Thanks for coming. Till next time.
Thank you
We'll
so
see you on the
much.
vlog. Amy,
Bye,
thanks for coming.
everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, Mike. See ya.
Yep. And we are